It is another episode of Amjambo Time. Thank you for all who help us to broadcast this unique program. I want to welcome our listeners in Maine and around the world. Here are our headline stories. Iranian-born Reza Jalali and Nasser Rohani react to news that Narges Mohammadi, an Iranian jailed activist, was awarded the 2023 Nobel Peace Prize.
Iranian women have been resisting wearing the mandatory hijab.
We also have a special program on mayoral elections in Poland, Maine. Yesterday, all the 6 candidates vying to become the mayor of Poland met to debate and try and convince working families to vote for them. The event was held at the Irish Heritage Center in Poland. We will bring you the essentials. You are following Amjambo Time, and we thank you for trusting in us. The full show starts after this advertisement break.
This program is sponsored by Maine Humanities Council, a statewide nonprofit that uses books, poetry, and big ideas to bring people together to discuss issues of importance. Maine Humanities Council offers facilitated discussion projects, speaker events, grant funding, and more. Maine Humanities Council would love to work with you to bring programming to your organization and your community. Please visit mainehumanitiescouncil.org to learn more.
At Amjambo Africa, we bring new Mainers together with all Mainers. This is a collaboration between Amjambo Africa and WMPG of Southern Maine University 90.9 FM. Thank you for tuning in. The mayoral candidates in Poland debated in front of unionists and working families on October 17 at the Irish Heritage Center. Different topics from wages, housing, education, apprenticeship, child care, and more were among topics moderated by Jason Shedlock, president of Maine Building and Construction Trades Council. Order of sitting: Pius Ali, Justin Costa, Mark Dion, Dylan Pook, George Lowe, Andrew Zaro. They all responded to questions.
We do not have a history in an environment and a culture that treats those folks in the labor sector with fairness and openness and transparency. I mean, there's a lot of collective bargaining agreements that are constantly coming before our council, and this is one of the most important areas.
This is a big one. I think enforcement of labor law standards is something where the city is currently lacking. In the last 3 years since joining the council, I've seen the staff really struggle.
How can we work together to actually build out proactively what it is that labor is trying to do? So one of the things that we did was we set up a structure.
When we went into that building, the parents look at me and say, "Pius, what about us?" I will leverage. I will work with the school department and leverage that space. Invite unions who are already doing this to say that this is technology that you can use with people who want to go into that field.
I, for one, wasn't willing to cut that deal. All right? If you make political overtures, you live with the consequence. All right? And the public saw it appropriately, too. So, if I want to talk with the longshoremen about what's a fair share for them on the dock, come to the office anytime. We can do that.
After moderating the debate, the president of the Maine Building and Construction Trades Council gave us his impression and the takeaways.
Sure, my name is Jason Shedlock. I'm the president of the Maine State Building and Construction Trades Council, as well as a regional organizer and secretary-treasurer of Local 327 of the Laborers International Union. I think this type of debate has been a long time coming. I think to be able to focus on working families' issues, on issues that impact our communities of color, on issues that impact traditionally underserved populations when we come to the workforce, it was well past time for these candidates to specifically focus on their plans for community members that are my union members, current and future, as well as community members of color. And I think we heard some very interesting differences with some of the candidates' answers. I will leave that up to your readership and the voters to make a decision on that. But I am very pleased that they all participated. I'm pleased that there was a large and diverse turnout today. And I think we need to continue to ask these questions, because if we're not at the table, sometimes they forget about us. And it's our job to make sure that we take a seat at the table, and if there's no seat, we'll bring our own chair and pull up that chair as well.
So do you think working families, they have enough content to decide now?
Everybody needs to do their homework. I think the idea here was to make sure that we got all the issues, some of the issues, in front of the candidates, so that the voters can understand a little bit about how these things impact them specifically when they're trying to pay bills, when they're trying to make their rent, when they're trying to get a job, when they're trying to break into the workforce, and as they get older, if they are trying to continue to live in the city. So I think that this was a good opportunity to hear a very concentrated version of those answers, and I think we're going to continue to, it's going to continue to evolve. But I'm awfully glad to have the opportunity to have specific questions about issues that I know that working Portlanders care about.
Can you remind us the top priority for union people?
Unions they exist to give people an opportunity at a middle-class life with dignity. And that means wages, that means benefits such as health care and retirement, that means a safe work site so that folks can get home safely to their family after a hard day's work. We basically, I think a lot of people say that workers and unions are having a moment, they're having a resurgence, and I don't agree with that. I think what I would say is unions have always had a voice, but they haven't had the megaphone. Workers have always had a voice, but they haven't had the megaphone that is the union movement. And I think people are using that megaphone, and people are listening. And if they don't listen, we have ways to make them listen. And I think folks are understanding that.
If you follow the debate in federal terms, President Biden has been speaking about union. I'm a union guy. So do you see that coming down to the area?
President Biden, without question, is the most worker-friendly and union-friendly president of my lifetime, and it probably will be for my continued lifetime. I think the important thing is that example that's set at the federal government is bleeding down into our state and local governments, because the grant funds that are available, the programs that are available, they're tied to making sure that the jobs that they create are good family-sustaining jobs. This president has drawn a line in the sand, and he's standing on the side of the worker. And I think we're seeing that politicians and elected officials and folks who want to be elected officials can't ignore that anymore. And I think they're in a position to answer the questions and get more educated on it, because it's more in the vernacular. People are talking about it more. They understand that the way to prosperity is to give somebody the opportunity to earn an honest middle-class life.
This is the season for Nobel Prizes. In some circles, the most important among them is the Nobel Peace Prize. The committee awarded this to Narges Mohammadi, an Iranian woman, human rights activist who is in jail now. Maine has many citizens originally from Iran, and they reacted to the news. Here we have Reza.
This is part of the history of Iranians as a nation struggle for self-determination and independence, but historically women have been in the forefront. So this is not something new. We can go back to a century ago and it's the same story. So we've always been, Iranian women have always really showcased their, again, struggle for being heard, for being included, and for also forcing change and helping the society to move forward. So based on that, this news is positive. We welcome that as an advocate, as a human rights activist. I welcome that, and we're very happy. And what is exciting that Narges Mohammadi is the second Iranian woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The first one being Shirin Ebadi, in the early 2000s. So again, this just tells you that having two women from the same country winning such a prestigious award and being recognized for their efforts is in itself a testimony to how strong Iranian women are, their spirit. And again, as an Iranian, Iranian American, I take pride that the international community is once again recognizing the strength of Iranian women. So as you know, and your readers may or may not know, that Iranian women in recent years have lost some of their political and social rights, but they haven't been silent, and they have been resisting the tyranny and seeking rights, and in the process actually asking for the rights for other Iranians, including the men, children, and others. So this is wonderful news for women everywhere. It's wonderful news for women in Iran, that the voices are being heard, that a person sitting in prison is being recognized for her efforts, for resisting tyranny, for standing up to Iranian women. That we have to understand that Iranian women, again, were in the forefront of the revolution.
We also have Nasser Rohani, who shares the same faith of Baha'i with Nargis Mohammadi. He shares joy mixed with sadness.
Nargis Mohammadi is one of many amazing Iranian women that stood for the right of their own gender, as well as for the human rights of all Iranians. There were Shirin Ebadi, who was also a Nobel Prize winner some years ago. And there is a woman by the name Nasrin Sotoudeh. I don't know if you want me to spell the name or whatever, but Nasrin Sotoudeh is another very prominent woman who President Obama, in one of his talks, praised her very eloquently. There are two Baha'i women's leaders that are in prison right now, along with Nargis Mohammadi. All three of them are in the same prison. And as soon as we heard the news that Nargis Mohammadi won the prize, we were so elated. The entire Baha'i world, they sent congratulations and everything. And of course, we are sad that she, cannot come out in person to receive her award. Her prize. But in one way, we feel that she and the two Baha'i leaders, two women, all these three women in prison, they are celebrating this great achievement, which is achievement of all the women.
Nargis's fight is about what?
Nargis Mohammadi was a part of a group of lawyers that were fighting for human rights of all Iranians, but in particular about gender equality. Right now in Iran, women are forced to, of course, they are forced to wear hijab. They are forced to, they are not given permission to work in high positions. They cannot have any managerial positions, and basically they are expected to be wives, producing children, cooking at home, and staying home. You know that for the past couple of years, there has been uprising of women that they are demanding for more freedom in the country. There they have, there are laws that, a man can marry up to 4 wives, for example. And Nargis is opposing that. It says that, these are antiquated laws that should change. Because of her standing for the rights of all Iranians, also especially for the rights of Baha'is in particular. She has, every time that there was any breach of human rights for the Baha'is, she stood for that. So far, she has been, she was arrested 13 times. 13 times she was arrested, convicted 5 times, and she has been sentenced, each time that she was arrested and imprisoned, a total of 31 years she has been sentenced. Of course, she is now undergoing all those years. So total of 31 years of imprisonment. And she has been also given 154 lashes. They whip them in the public, that? Yeah. So she has been sentenced 154 lashes. You just see a lawyer, a prominent woman, very eloquent, very capable woman, being so humiliated because she's standing for human rights. So we are so, it is a bittersweet for the Baha'is, because in one hand we are so happy and so proud of this woman, but at the same time we are so sad that she is unable to receive it in person.
This program is sponsored by Maine Humanities Council, a statewide nonprofit that uses books, poetry, and big ideas to bring people together to discuss issues of importance. Maine Humanities Council offers facilitated discussion projects, speaker events, grant funding, and more. Maine Humanities Council would love to work with you to bring programming to your organization and your community. Please visit mainehumanitiescouncil.org to learn more.
We are also in Weston, Maine, and we visited the Community Organizing Alliance. Scott, who is the program manager at the Community Organizing Alliance, he tells us what they are doing, especially during this local election period.
So the Community Organizing Alliance is focusing on empowering new Mainers, and especially young new Mainers, in as many different ways as possible. So sort of our flagship program is the LEO program, which is listening, education, and organizing. And that program we're running at Lewiston High School right now with a couple different groups of students. And the goal there is really to help people find their voice. So have conversations about what they're experiencing in their communities, what the issues are that they're confronting either at school or in Lewiston, and how they can use their voices to make a difference there. So what does community organizing mean? What does social justice mean? We start that conversation with folks, and then by the end of the program, we hope to have a lot of young people who have the skills they need to use their voice in a way that gets heard by people in the larger community, by the city council, by the state government. We want people to be excited about the political process and what they can do.
So when you explain social justice to a teenager, so how do you tell him what it is?
Absolutely, that's a really good question, and I do think social justice means something different to different people. One of the things that I'm focused on is asking folks, what does justice mean to them? What do they think fairness in their community means? What do they think about the way different communities are treated in Lewiston? What are the power dynamics in Lewiston? Because I think from my conversations with a lot of students, they feel left out of that conversation, where their perspective on what matters to them, what fairness means to them, what justice means to them isn't part of the conversation.
So when you mop around or when you talk to those young folks, so how do you sense their needs or their feelings compared to social justice?
Absolutely. So we really try not to lead the conversation. We want them to tell us what they think. So a lot of the conversations that we've had We have a really great group of young women right now working on gun violence in Lewiston. We have other people who are concerned about lack of resources for financial literacy or workforce development. And in each of those cases, those are topics that we're pursuing because people came to us and said, this is something that matters to me. We want to elevate people's voices and not use our own in that way.
Tell me more about these two events that you are organizing soon and how you want people to know them about what you want people to know about these events.
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity. So on Thursday, October 19th at 2:30 here at Gateway Community Services, we're going to be joined by Titi DeBaccarat, who's a local organizer, and the first part of that workshop is going to be a forum, again, where we say, here's what social justice means. Let's define the word, and then let's talk about how that's affecting, what are the social justice issues, what are the inequalities that you're experiencing as a member of the Lewiston community. We want to hear from people what their perspective is there. After that, we are going to break into working groups and really build those organizing skills. What does it mean to get a bunch of people to come out to an event? How do you engage with the state or local government? How do you get press attention for an issue? How do we bring this conversation out of this room and to other people's awareness? Similarly, the event we're hosting with the Midwest Academy, that'll be on November 3rd and November 4th. That's a workshop to build those hard organizing skills that I was just talking about for young folks. So we want to get a bunch of young folks there, again, to have a conversation about the issues that they're experiencing in their neighborhoods, but also to build those hard skills so they can walk out the door and know how to get a group of 5 friends together and make some noise around the issues that are important to them.
So do you see some outcomes so far, or it's yet to be seen?
We've been hosting LEO events, that's the Listening, Education, and Organizing event, for 2 years now, and the result has been a really great community, dozens of folks who are really engaged in the political process, thinking about things in a different way. I think a lot of folks that we talk to initially don't feel like there's a place for their voice in the political process, in state and local government. And our goal is to make people feel empowered and confident in using their voice to make a difference. And we're really excited that there's a community of young people in Lewiston who have gone through these trainings who now have the skills to do that.
So I was looking around and I saw a lot of signposts for mayor election, for example.
Absolutely.
So those local elections. So how do these group of people that you are working with, are they concerned? Are they involved? Are they translating what you are telling them into action by going to vote, registering? Do you have any sense of that?
Absolutely. So we've had a couple voter registration events here at Kennedy Park, and we've had some real success in registering people to vote for the first time. We know that a lot of the young folks that we've talked to are going to be voting in this election for the first time. And folks have gone to city council meetings who haven't been to city council meetings before. So we have seen people get involved in politics or in state government for the first time. I want to be clear, though, Community Organizing Alliance isn't endorsing any particular candidate or any particular topics. Our goal is to make sure that young people are aware of their roles, their responsibilities, and what the issues at stake are in the election.
Yeah, I think that's the baseline, making people feel like they have a civic duty to fulfill. The experience has been immigrants, sometimes they don't care about local elections, but yet the outcome might come to bite you back. So how is the general messaging that you can tell to people, to young folks, about elections?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would encourage people to get involved right away in elections. Early voting is already available. You can go to City Hall, register to vote if you haven't registered before, and you can actually place an early vote right now through November 3rd. So we want to encourage people to register, make sure that they're on the rolls, make sure that they are voting in this election. And I'd also encourage folks to come out to a community forum that we're hosting at the Harvard Center at Bates on November 1st. We're inviting candidates who are running for the school committee, who are running for city council, and who are running for mayor to come out and answer questions that have been put together by young people in Lewiston and students at Bates to really talk about the issues that young people who are invested in the city's future really care about. So there's a lot of different ways to get to know what the issues are, who the candidates are. We're really lucky to be able to support those efforts as an organization. But the most important thing I would say is register to vote and make sure your voice is heard every single election.
How can I empower someone to make a choice among 5 candidates? Most of them, they will speak same stuff and, kind of. So how do I empower someone to detect someone who match with their needs in this way of empowering youth?
I think that's a great question. And I think a lot of the candidates aren't talking about the issues that young people in this city really care about. That's why I'm really excited about this candidate forum, where we're going to have questions from young people talking about issues like gun violence, issues like substance use disorder, issues like housing inequality in this city. Incarceration, absolutely. Crime, quality of life in Lewiston. We want to make sure that the candidates are answering to those issues, because those are what we're hearing from the young people we talk to. Those are the issues they really care about.
We have come to the end of today's Amjambo time. Thank you for tuning in. Please keep an eye on WMPG and the Amjambo Africa website for a podcast of this show and more news we are covering in Maine. And remember, Amjambo time alternates with our newest show, Wiriwe Maine, on air in Kinyarwanda and Kirundi on alternate Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and available by podcast at amjamboafrica.com. And stay tuned for news about Bonjour Maine, our newest podcast, to be broadcast entirely in French. Amjambo time is brought to you by Jaha Kuzimana. Have a great day.